Hello and welcome to another edition of Another Book Review. Before we get started this week, I would like to ask everybody who is interested to submit questions. I'm going to do a 100 subscriber thank you video by doing a Q&A video for hitting 100 subscribers. I'm just shy of that right now. I imagine it's going to take maybe 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month before I hit 100 subscribers, but I want to do that video. So if you've ever had any questions about the books or my reviews or the channel, please feel free to submit them in the comment section of this video or in the original introduction video that is on the channel page. So thanks, everybody. For this week, I'm going to go ahead and be reviewing Geoffrey Miller, The Mating Mind. I'll talk very briefly about the author, go into an overview of the book, talk about what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, who I'd recommend the book to, and finish off with what I'll be reading for next time. Geoffrey Miller is a professor of psychology at the University of New Mexico, I believe. He wrote this book a relative long time ago. It came out in 2000 or 2001, and the book is an exploration of Charles Darwin's theory about sexual selection, which is typically not as covered as much as far in terms of in relationship to the survival of the fittest and evolutionary theory associated with that. So that's kind of Charles Darwin's second most well-known theory is sexual selection. He does a really strong job of breaking down exactly what the theory is. He talks about why the main thrust of the book is really about how art and culture and music and humor are all used mostly by men to achieve higher status in the eyes of women. This is true for all species, but male and female species of any species that sexually reproduces. And by utilizing those methods that we typically look at as secondary or tertiary, they can be seen to be biologically or evolutionarily advantageous. He talks a little bit about the ideas as they pertain to evolutionary psychology. He talks about how Darwin's theory became somewhat controversial, mostly because of the society that the theory came out in terms of Victorian England and their views on female agency in their own sexual lives, which was one of the best parts of the book. I think he also does a good explanation of why humans in the first place reproduce sexually that kind of served as a primer for someone who's not very scientifically literate. I found that very useful. He talks about something called the 37% rule, which is pretty interesting, and the book overall has dollops of humor within it that I found pretty refreshing. It can be a very heady topic, and it was nice to have his kind of sense of humor come through in the book. He's gone on, Geoffrey Miller has written several different books. This is the only book of his that I've read, but he's written several different books on this topic, and I think from what I've gathered, the books after this really focus more on consumerism and how it relates to social status, which is a part of sexual selection. In this book, he primarily focuses on what we would call early human species, very, very early Homo sapiens, and their attitudes and their behaviors, and how the way they lived their lives, and uses that to explain a lot of these things. He also uses other animal species throughout the book, but that's the general gist of the book. And the only things that I didn't like about it, it did take me, I don't know if it was his writing style or I don't know, but it felt like the chapters were uneven, especially in the beginning until you get to really Darwin's theory, which is probably 20 or 30, 40 pages into the book. The first go of it was a little rough for me. I think he does do a good job at the end of chapters summarizing his arguments, and I think he does do a good job. He mentions something called the runaway theory, which is pretty interesting, and he uses it to explain part of sexual selection, but he also points out where he believes the runaway theory has limitations in the science, and I thought that was actually really interesting. And the runaway theory in of itself was pretty fascinating. So if you're at all interested in sexual selection and also interested in evolution, I definitely would recommend The Mating Mind by Geoffrey Miller. Like I said, there are parts of it that are a little spotty, but overall I thought it was a pretty interesting book. So that is The Mating Mind. Next week I'm going to be reading Hurricane Season by Fernanda, I'm going to mispronounce the last name, I apologize, Melchor. Until next time, please feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to go ahead and leave my Twitter link in the comments below. I'm also, like I said, if you want to, if any questions you may have about the channel or me or the reviews or the books, please leave them in the comment section below or in the comment section of the introductory video. Till next time, bye.